South Korea cannot be a credible ally of the United States. And therefore, that put the United States in a very difficult position. The impeachment motion by the National Assembly now went to the Constitutional Court. And Constitutional Court should make a decision to accept or reject the motion within 180 days. If the motion is accepted, then President Yoon will be dismissed, and then there will be election within 60 days. If it is rejected by the Constitutional Court, then he will return to the presidency. Therefore, if the Constitutional Court expedite the process, then the verdict will be rendered within 60 days. Then president's election can be held within 60 days. That means what? Sometime in May. If it is faster, the president's election can be held in the March or April. In the maximum case that the president's election cannot be delayed more than July or August. There is a kind of the overall impeachment process. But problem is there is another case against President Yoon Suk-yeol. Now the National Assembly has taken the case to the court for the charge of treason. And that is separate from impeachment process. Impeachment process about the President Yoon's violation of Constitution. But in the case of treason, in fact, our Constitution says that the president is not subject to any kind of criminal prosecution as long as he's in the position of president. But in the case of treason, he is subject to a criminal investigation and in a judgment. But now the civil society and NGOs filed a petition to the executive prosecutor's office that the prosecutor's office should prosecute president on the charge of treason. Therefore, there is another legal criminal case. Therefore, it is a two-track approach to President Yoon. One is the impeachment for the reason of violation of Constitution, and at the same time, the violation of treason of the criminal code. Therefore, there are two legal tracks are going on. If he is impeached, then that will characterize the great progress in Korean democracy, and democratic resilience of South Korea will be proven. But if he is not impeached, then there will be continuation of political uncertainty and instability. It's very unlikely that he will retain presidency because evidences are ample. Because he ordered the military to get into the National Assembly and try to dissolve the National Assembly. And there is a violation of the Constitution. And also he sent the military to our Central Electoral Commission to take over the service for the election. There is another violation of constitutional law. And more importantly, he came up with a list of 15 members who are mostly from the political leaders and judges and journalists, and he ordered the military to arrest them. That is another violation of Constitution. Therefore, I think the evidence is ample, and it is very likely that he will be impeached by the Constitutional Court. Yeah, as you have seen in the street, great number of South Koreans, particularly young South Koreans, they have been extremely supportive of so-called impeachment of Yoon Suk-yeol. They showed the strongest protest against Yoon Suk-yeol's declaration of martial law. That really shows, Therefore, now we have a K-pop culture, K-pop on the one hand. Now we have a K-democracy driven by this young generation, particularly female members of Korean society in the 20s. But they support peace, not war, okay? They support peaceful coexistence with North Korea and the world. They do not want the conflict and rivalry between China and the United States. They want, multilateral security cooperation as opposed to alliance. Therefore, let us see, how they, influence electoral outcome next year. If they become the major driving forces of Korean society, and we have a great hope for peace, stability, and common prosperity on the Korean Peninsula and in Northeast Asia. But I think that the most important thing is really leadership quality. President Yoon has been campaigning hold this value of liberal democracy, and he pretended to be a guardian of liberal democracy. He was a crusade of liberal democracy. That's why he emphasized that ROK US alliance should be value alliance. The military, economic, information, cultural alliance would derive from this value alliance. But he himself violated the fundamental principles of liberal democracy by declaring martial law. He ignored the principles of liberal democracy embodied in Korean Constitution, and also he violated constitutional law. Therefore, it is really personal deviation rather than the structural factors per se. And also, he was really ignorant, and at the same time, he was spreading fake news about the excessive power of opposition party. Therefore, the United States will be in very difficult position because the U.S. has been promoting the idea of a coalition of like-minded countries, coalition of democracy against autocracies. But now he himself became autocratic. Therefore, from that point of view, the South Korea cannot be a credible ally of the United States. And therefore, that put the United States in very difficult position. Liberal democracy is all about, really conflict among different individuals and, groups. And the president, as a political leader, should be able to muddle through this conflicting interest and try to reach some kinds of, compromise among, competing political and social forces. But he failed to do that. And out of anger and frustration, he just violated the Constitution. Therefore, it is more leadership quality than the structural, factors. Of course, I do not deny there are some kinds of built-in vulnerabilities in Korean political system. Like the United States, Korea is polarized. Okay? Korean political system is a presidential system, is a winner-take-all system. And that has fostered the polarization of Korean politics. And also, and I would say that the negative influence of SNS, particularly YouTube, has deepened the polarization in Korean politics. Therefore, conservatives and progressives in South Korea, they are like two different universes. And there are no interstellar communication between the two. Therefore, this polarized political structure in Korean system has worsened the overall situation in Korea. Therefore, but for me, I think the most important thing is, leadership quality. That really matters. And then that was coincided with overall structural vulnerability of Korean society. But I would say that the most important necessary condition for current development has something to do with political leadership per se. He was not abiding in our constitutional order. He was lawless, and then he was ignorant and was trying to maximize the utilization of fake news. At the same time, he was incompetent. He was incompetent in a sense that he failed to muddle through conflicting interests. And also, he himself identified as a kind of state. And therefore, anybody who opposed him was anti-state forces. And that was, I think, the great mistake on the part of President Yoon Suk-yeol. I don't know whether the U.S. can push for the coalition of liberal democracy, coalition of like-minded countries any further.
We're obviously watching the developments very closely. This is one of our closest partners and allies around the world.
Therefore, it's up to the next government, which will be elected in 2025. Therefore, I would say that this American emphasis on so-called value framed around the liberal democracy was greatly damaged as a result of President Yoon's declaration of martial law. The opposition party is in very good position to regain political power. But again, opposition party should learn from failure of Yoon Suk-yeol. Therefore, opposition party should be more open, pluralistic, and trying to learn the old lesson. Politics is all about making the impossible the possible. But the President Yoon Suk-yeol made the possible the impossible. There is how to shape national consensus, how to shape the great unity of the society, 다통수회, and how to minimize the polarization in Korean society. That will be a great task for the opposition party. In the past, North Korea tend to take advantage of domestic political stability in the South as a way of taking military provocation and offensive. But this time, North Korea has shown very unusual response. For example, North Korea's workers' parties in a newspaper, Nodong Shinmun, did not mention anything about what's going on in South Korea. For example, when President Park Geun-hye was impeached in 2016, North Korean newspapers were criticizing Park Geun-hye. But this time, North Korea has been unusually very quiet on what's going on in South Korea. And also, North Korea is known to be involved in Ukraine in a conflict. And therefore, I really don't think that the North Korea will take any kinds of military provocation or offensive against South Korea. But that has something to do with Kim Jong-un's new policy. December last year, Kim Jong-un declared that now North-South Korea relations are too hostile in state relations. Therefore, he made it very clear. Now, the North-South Korea is now Republic of Korea. It's a totally different state, which is in hostile relations with North Korea. Therefore, North Korea will abide by international law not to interfere with the South Korean domestic politics. Therefore, I really don't think that North Korea will take advantage of what's going on in South Korea for its own domestic political gain. The Korea situation in Korea is very uncertain because American policy will be uncertain. North Korean response will be uncertain. Therefore, we will be going through the period of uncertainty.
偷偷告诉大家，我最近发现了新法宝 Royal Face 逆时奇迹系列，它有活肤露、全效精华，还有精华霜。尤其我皮肤比较偏干，所以我非常的注重保湿。保湿做得好，肌肤自然烹润。提亮肤色更年轻，抚平皱纹超有感，而且气色变好。用心保养，每天都更美一点。美吧。